What up, gamers? Barnes here, and we're back for a video. Today we're going to have a very special video about role-playing games. Today's video is going to be about not playing role-playing games. And it's May the 4th here, 2015. We're still barely in here on the East Coast. It's 11:45 as I speak. And role-playing games for me has been the thing that I've been doing longest in my life, besides eating, shitting, and role-playing clothes. You know, wearing clothes and writing. I've been writing a little bit longer. Doing math slightly longer than I've been playing role-playing games. Understood the concept of baseball.
Reading.
But not, reading, yeah. But not many things in my life I've been doing longer than role-playing games. It's a hobby that I've had since I was 8 or 9, and it's stuck with me. And it's one of my favorite things to do. I fantasize about it.
He fantasizes about fantasizing.
And there's times in my life where I just didn't roleplay at all. We just didn't roleplay.
This is one of those times.
Right now we're in a campaign fizzle. We're still in a campaign. We just haven't played in couple months, two months. I don't know.
Any time over a couple hours is forever to me.
Okay. Now, how long have you been role playing for?
Forever, man.
Not forever. How long?
I guess now.
You guys know Panky. This is Panky, one of my players.
This is Panky, one of his players.
I forgot to. He wasn't that important, I guess.
Not especially important. I guess like 11 or 12 years of playing D&D, and then mostly just playing pretend before that.
Right. So you actually had the books before.
I did.
You never played or knew anybody that played.
There was extensive theory about the playing.
But you never knew anybody that played.
Exactamente, see.
Okay.
It's kind of hard to get off the ground when you don't have somebody around that's done it before.
Yeah, it can be. And unlike other hobbies, you know, role-playing game has a lot of prep time. Especially for a game master, there's an extreme amount of prep time compared to other games.
Truth.
I mean, I guess you could say that you practice sports all the time to get better at it. And train.
But you're just being argumentative at this point.
Alright, that is an argument. You're right.
I'll be right back.
Where are you going? We're doing a video.
Not far at all.
So, things have changed in my life. And these changes have led to us not playing. Predominantly not playing. My life was up in the air, and my career, my place of business, my game room, my living conditions and home were all
In flux.
in flux. And my goals in life had changed slightly, and my focus was elsewhere. And I've come down a little bit from that.
If you were a D&D character and I was
Smoking.
role-playing you, I would take all this stuff in a stride. But in real life, this is big stuff.
Yeah, so I got some big moves I gotta make. And we're not gaming. Now we're gonna try to game Sunday. I don't know if you're available Sunday.
That is one of the days of the week.
That is a day of the week.
I'll be here.
We have a player coming up from Florida. He actually just joined the RPG Brigade group. Maybe I can get you to join that. You're on
He's a
Facebook.
pretty nefarious player.
He's a power gamer from way back. That's the way I describe him.
I've never played in a campaign with him where his primary goal was not to undermine or outright slay the party.
That's because he played the NPCs with you. You would never pull it off. He's never been part of the party while you played.
Absolutely not.
But he's been in my gaming group for 20-some odd years. Actually, we were actually...
So he's only been the devil for the last 10 years.
Yeah. Actually, we played in another
When
group.
Matt comes to town, players get permanently maimed.
That's true. That is true. I will allow old players to come in and play an NPC. And actually, my favorite time that he did that, he played a spy master NPC, and he had written up different personalities and thought that You know, we kept changing character sheets, and they thought that he was somebody else.
They did.
That was brilliant.
It was. It was really funny.
So
If I recall, one of the characters in the party just kind of lost their shit and eventually shot the guy in the face.
really,
Pardon my French. But yes, that was how that character met his end. He was shot in the eye during a combat where he was ostensibly on our side, I think.
so I don't recall. I do remember he had different characters line up.
It was really funny.
So
But we don't do that stuff anymore.
I mean,
Not nowadays.
I would. I'm still down.
Not in these days of flux.
Not in these games and days of not playing role-playing games.
Unless Barney wants to play, then we're playing.
Well, I think Sunday we're gonna try, but we haven't played in a couple months.
That is an odd burden on the part of the Dungeon Master that none of the player characters individually share. In theory, the game could go on without any one of us, but you are fundamental.
I mean, somebody else could dungeon master, I guess. It's just I know the world right now, and nobody else does.
That's true.
But somebody else can make it up. I mean, I guess.
Could you hand me an ashtray?
Sure.
Well, that's not necessary because we're playing on Sunday.
But times when I'm not playing role-playing games, I do feel like something's missing, you know, and I miss seeing everybody every week.
Yeah.
It is an outlet for me that releases stress, allows me to see my friends.
Good banter.
It was banter. It was good banter.
It's a creative outlet.
It is a creative outlet, and when we're not playing, everyone's always wondering when we're gonna play, which is kind of weird.
When we're not playing, I'm never concerned about Barney killing everyone in the room.
I never kill anybody.
That's never a concern when
People
we're not gaming.
do die.
That's never a
I will
concern
kill
when
you.
we're not gaming.
Actually, this is something I'm going to address too, is power game mastering. Now, this is a term I've thrown around a lot and I've never really explained. And all power game mastering is using the rules to your advantage when players try to power game on you. That's all it is. The players are going to power game, then you just use the rules to your advantage as well. It's kind of shitty sometimes, but if they're going to rules broker you and if they're going to try to finagle the rules their way, I don't see any problem with it. And I don't really believe in easy encounters, really. I mean, they have
He doesn't. He's not a fan of those.
No.
We don't usually walk through the monsters.
No. What's the sense of fight from that? I mean, I guess sometimes in roleplay it happens amongst other sentient beings in society, you know,
But not in Barney's campaign.
no, I mean, that does happen in the campaigns. You guys have punked down people without much of a fight, but
No, that's true.
I don't see in, like, fighting monsters that you're just going to kill 100 of them.
But that does raise an interesting point. Now, on the terms of outside the game, it's sensible that you wouldn't want to do that. But, on the other hand, I've always found it odd, and this is true of video games as well as tabletop role-playing games. What are the odds that as you're going through your life, you're constantly meeting
Harder and harder.
encounters of an appropriate difficulty for you? Like, you're just continuously wandering into a further region where it's more and more difficult to survive. And seemingly to the point that civilization could never exist in its normal form in some of the places that you
Come on,
go.
man. I mean, come on. It's a fantasy world.
Well, but it stands to reason that if you walk through the woods and the odds are that you're going to meet, 1d6 plus 3 goblins, how come you don't bump into those guys anymore once you're crazy tough?
Because it's boring.
That's true. There is no in-game explanation.
The goblins run once they hear you come to town. They flee.
Everything under challenge rating 12 scatters.
Now let's talk about goblinoids, because in my worlds they don't exist.
How do you feel about that?
How do you guys feel about that?
You're not here to respond.
Yeah, let me know in the comments. There's no goblinoids. And guess what else there's not? Gnomes. There's no gnomes.
No gnomes and no goblins.
No goblins and no gnomes. Dwarfs are rare.
You know,
Gnomes. What?
goblins.
What about them?
They've been done.
Yeah, they've been done.
They've been done and done again.
Done and done again. Tolkien.
You know, if you think about it, The Lord of the Rings would be kind of a boring role-playing game because almost all of your encounters with goblins. Goblins every time.
There's a lot of goblins and
Constant
orcs.
goblins.
Special orcs.
Constant goblins. But not in Barney's world.
Tolkien never gave
Never
me
a goblin. If a goblin showed up in one of Barney's campaigns, it could herald an apocalyptic event. We often theorized about a possible rise of the goblinoids
Rise of the goblinoids, yeah.
in a previous campaign, but it was never confirmed or disconfirmed.
Another thing is I connect my campaigns from previous campaigns. No
Yeah.
matter how far-fetched it might seem, those two fucking worlds are connected somehow.
Some cases less ridiculous than others.
Less than ridiculous, no, sure. The,
You are a character in one of Barney's games.
that is true, actually. I did use members of the brigade as NPCs in our current game. That is on pause.
Now you know.
Yep. And Rajir, I don't know if you're out there watching, but you play a big role in the next coming phase of our story. As does Andrew Wood. Andrew Wood will make an appearance.
Hats off to you guys.
Hats off. Yeah, a lot of Poland. Is that the or Bubba? The guard at Homlin.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the big guy with the beard. And what was that? What was it? They would. All right, Poland. I had you at a gate, and every time somebody walked by, you were talking about some weird thing. I think I told you that already. Yeah, talking about some weird sexual thing at the front gate. Yeah. I made Jenny Green the Blood Witch.
You gotta stay entertained at work.
What's that?
You gotta stay entertained at work.
Yeah, I gotta stay entertained at work.
No, guards do.
Oh, they do. Yes. I just did it as a tribute to the. Pridditch is Tim Harper, played by Tim Harper, and his apprentice is Derek. Oh, Derek, what is your last name? Starts with an M. Lincoln 101. Lincoln 101. That's a lot easier. Yeah.
I was unaware of most of this.
I mean,
Apparently our campaign is chock full of you people.
yeah, it is. It is actually.
That's
Well, that
cool.
means that they don't really mean that much to you. I mean, you know some of them. Like, who's your favorite YouTube RPG videoer? You've seen enough.
Black Barnes, man.
Well, you're biased because you're in the videos.
Yeah. He has the best guests.
That's true. Have the best guests. Yeah. So, have you missed gaming since we haven't been gaming the last time?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. You know, there's a certain fix that you can only get by high adventure.
I guess so. Were you into this campaign?
Oh yeah, I'm having a blast. You know, it gets tough when like attendance is spotty.
We've been having tennis problems.
Barney has a hard time making story points happen.
When people aren't there.
Things start to drag out.
That's not PC plot immunity video. I was
He
talking
has
about.
to, you know, throw in random stuff in between.
To make things connect.
And so it makes it more difficult, and I feel that it has a tendency to decrease, you know, role playing, and there's a little more.
Well, sure, because
Yeah.
now you're losing part of the story. and those people aren't interacting.
The tabletop battle becomes a bigger focus of the session. Which, don't get me wrong, I always love a good tabletop battle.
Let's talk about tabletop battles. Which basically means we're talking about maps. Because that's all they really are, battle maps.
Battle maps.
I'm a fan of the battle map.
He's made a few.
I made a few. I'm a fan of miniatures and
Didn't used to
modeling.
be. It wasn't always like that.
It wasn't always like that. It wasn't.
Now, it is.
It is.
Especially like that.
And basically, the big change for that is when I realized how much easier combat was easier to keep track of.
People don't ask the same inane questions anymore.
No, they don't. But on the other hand, you can get lazy. The less lazy you are with your miniatures and battle maps, the more lazy you'll be with your descriptions if you're not careful. Because people just take things for granted, and they just see the thing there and they assume it's exactly what it is.
That's a good point.
Though I do get kind of ridiculous. There's people more ridiculous than I am now.
Just in general.
I mean, with
and
miniatures.
particularly in terms of battle maps.
And battle maps, yes. Yes, they are. I don't have everything. I got a lot of stuff.
There are people more ridiculous than me when it comes to battle maps, but in general, it's far less common.
Yeah. Yeah. We do have the flying thing that I haven't seen anybody else.
The rig.
The rig, so we can make characters fly. And I'm going to replace it eventually.
I spend most of my time up there.
You do. That is where your character does spend most of your time, and most of those things are actually from you. Or anticipation.
He's just kind of left a trail of everywhere that I've flown.
So
I can get back.
what I got in the ceiling here was a net, and I just started to hang hooks from it. But I'm going to go with a pegboard, a 1-inch pegboard. It's squared out, and it's got a little circle every inch squared. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I've seen it.
They're usually in stores to hold up displays. But I'll show you what we got going on here. I don't know if I've ever showed you guys this before. This is the craziness in the room, though. So this is how characters fly. That's a cloud. I do use clouds. So, yeah. So I'm going to replace that with a pegboard.
In theory, those lights represent different celestial bodies, but they're not always in precise position.
Okay,
It'd be too much work.
This is another ridiculousness about the game room. Is that I don't know if you guys see the stars, but those are actually the stars in the world. And there's, cover your ears. And the world has a ring around it, and so that the netting is actually the ring in the sky. But I don't describe it to them as a ring, because they wouldn't know what the hell that was. All right, you can come back now.
I can't help but imagine that my not listening face was scrunchy and prune-like.
So before this, what was the longest you went without gaming?
I took a campaign off from the group, but I have no recollection of how much time that actually comprised. Whatever campaign where Peter was the Dread Necromancer. I wasn't in that one.
Okay, that was the second alphabet?
I heard he was most dreadful.
He was.
I was in the second Alpiguin, but it wasn't particularly long.
No, it wasn't. That was a fizzle.
It was a quick fizzle.
Fizzles when a campaign dies out for some reason.
It's kind of like putting down a dog.
This one I think everyone was into, except for Norton. We lost a pretty long permanent player.
Yeah, I was surprised.
I think Daniel gets on his nerves. I don't know if you know that, Dan, or not, if you're watching. But I don't know. I think that Dan Crosstalk gets the Norton. Captain Crosstalk, Daniel. You're out there.
In theory, the entire world is out there.
In theory.
It's daunting if you think about it.
It really is. I mean, we could be talking to like Kevin Bacon. It could be the actor. That would totally decrease the number of degrees between us and Kevin Bacon.
Dude,
especially if he leaves a comment.
Kevin
Kevin Bacon, leave a comment.
That would make that game ridiculously easy. Does anybody
I got
game
two.
with Kevin Bacon?
I'm 2 away.
I feel like you would have commented on it by now.
2 away from Kevin Bacon.